Well, we did some competition drifting this weekend, but we are back home and it is time to dive back into the case-swapped Cefiro build. I'm ready to get this thing done, and we've got a lot more parts in to do a lot more stuff to get us a lot further of the way there. We don't have the engine parts back yet. Head's still at the machine shop. They said it would be about a week. I called yesterday, which is a little over a week, and they said it won't be till next week at the earliest. Typical machine shop woes. If it's not done by then, I'm gonna have to find someone else to do it. I can't wait any longer. But we've got maybe just enough stuff to keep us busy until then. So what do we have? A lot of stuff. So I got a huge order in from Pt.6. So we've got their high clearance front sway bar. So this is like a spline sway bar designed for the S chassis, but we'll work on these chassis. Will give us a lot of clearance so we don't rub our tire on it, which happens on the Ellis Miata. We've got their Welding subframe braces. So these are cut and bent, ready to go, put them in place, weld them in to brace and stiffen up the subframe. So we're gonna do that. It's a hindsight thing. I already painted the subframe, but we'll grind it down, we'll weld them in. That thing will be stout. We got axle spacers for our dual caliper setup. So we've got dual caliper brackets for 300ZX brakes, lines, and we have their hidden handles. This is my favorite thing about Pt.6 is they are so creative and they come up with really innovative solutions to problems. So for example, this car is a street car. I don't want some big hydro handle in there and have to cut up the center console and just kind of trash the interior to put a dual caliper setup in there. But going to 300ZX brakes, I can't really run the factory cable one. So what they made is a hidden handbrake. It basically uses the stock handle, hides the master cylinder in the center console, and you've got your nice dual caliper handbrake, but it looks like stock. Like you don't have to cut anything up. So cool, super cool thing. Stoked on that. High clearance front tension rods. We've got spare Heims for those because Drift Week is probably going to be pretty abusive on cars. Inner tie rods. This awesome note from someone I would assume in the shipping department. Much love, longtime fan at altered_intent. Thank you for the note. Brightened up my day here. This is a nice start to the day to get to work on some stuff, read a nice note like that. So that is what we have. You saw the last video, you know we made a lot of progress on the rear subframe, got it out, got it stripped, got it painted, solid subframe bushings are in, we've got all ISR arms to go in the rear. I did end up getting ball joints for the control arms. The ones that were in there were smoked, so I found some ball joints that measured out right and fit. So I got those pressed in, but that's enough talking. We've got a lot of work to do. I think we're going to start with welding everything into the subframe because we can't assemble it till that's done. So let's get to it, boys. As you can kind of tell, part of the reason why I really hope this whole house thing goes through, kind of running out of room here. Got all the engine parts off. Feels good to have my workbench back. I cleaned up the oil tray and just stacked everything in there. We got engine, suspension. So we need to start cleaning up the edges of where we're gonna weld these plates. First one we're gonna do is the diff carrier mount brace, which is gonna go right here, obviously. So break out the old sanding disc wire wheel combination and get after it. All right, one brace down, several to go. Dude, these new ISR Pro arms are freaking beautiful. They got rubber boots and everything. Alright, we're moving on to the rear camber arm braces. Alright, we're most of the way through here. Got this other bracket welded on here. The second biggest one. These are the second biggest ones. The rear diff one is the biggest one. But yeah, everything's coming together smoothly. I've just got to do the rear lower control arm ones, which is two separate. Oh, I've got two more to do actually. Just kidding. Thought I was on the second to last one. So that's probably the reverse one for the other side. But anyway, one, and then there's one more here. We got to do this one too. So JK, I thought I was on the last step. We still got a little bit to do. It's not bad though. It's like fabricating where you get the satisfaction of like, wow, that looks so good on there welded, but you don't actually have to do any of the thinking or the cutting. You just put it in, bolt the arm in to make sure everything's good, tack it, weld it. Cake. Sandy came to join the party. She said I was welding it wrong, but she won't show me how to do it. I mean, you gotta show me if I'm doing it wrong. Oh, I know the welding helmet doesn't fit you. I understand. I'll take your advice, all right? Oh, after a little bit of time, oh wow, this thing's dirty. The subframe is done. We got our control arm braces. Brace, 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 brace. Very, very satisfying. So I gotta clean up some of the chipped paint. We gotta tape off the solid subframe bushings and then throw a coat of paint on this thing. Welds came out pretty good though for MIG welding to, I mean, I guess the subframe's reasonably thick. Didn't have any issues with it trying to blow holes. But definitely a satisfying project, that is for sure. All right, I let the bottom paint dry overnight, came out early this morning, threw a coat of paint on the top so it would have time to dry. I missed a spot. Dang it. It's always hard on very complicated shapes like that because it's hard to get everywhere. Anyway, I'm gonna touch up this spot and then we can finally start building the subframe. We have everything we need. We got our dual caliper plates. We can put our hubs on. We can do everything. Get this thing fully assembled, get it back in the car, which is very exciting. That's gonna be, oh, it's so satisfying to do all this stuff to a subframe and put it back in the car and see it with all the shiny new parts. I'm pretty excited for it. We do have some stuff to do on the chassis as well, but we'll get to that once we get the subframe built. So throw some paint on the spots I missed and we'll get it up on the bench and start diving in. actually wasn't too bad. Thing has to be in my car. Like that. Perfect. Went ahead and tossed the subframe up on this because they don't need to be on here to put it in the car anyway. Just a little tight. Come on, baby. Before we install our other arms, we need to install the knuckles, but before we install the knuckles, we need to get them ready for our dual caliper bracket. So these are gonna bolt on to the front, allow us to bolt on a second pair of calipers, or a second caliper per knuckle, which will allow us to have a brake system like stock, just factory brakes on the foot pedal, and then another caliper just directly from the handbrake master. We need to get these stripped down. We need to get this deal off for the drum brakes. We need to get these dust shields off, just pretty much strip them down to a bare knuckle. Well, that was easier than expected, and since these are so clean, I'm gonna clean the face off real quick, and then I gotta do it. I gotta throw a coat of paint on them. I wasn't planning on it, but I gotta do it. Alright, actually, while we wait for this paint to dry, start getting the other arms put on the car, or on the subframe, not the car. Two arms down, one to go. Before we install the knuckles back on, we do have to cut our factory brake tabs off. So these are for the factory caliper. Our dual caliper brackets from GK Tech are for two 300ZX calipers, two pot calipers, and basically it's got a new mounting point for both. Instead of reusing the stock mounting point and adding another, it just deletes that all together, mounts them both side by side. Really, really clean way to do it. But obviously it requires us cutting these off. Luckily we've got the bandsaw. It'll make it a pretty easy process, I think. Done. Toss some paint on the raw metal and we're good to throw these on. All right, we've got our knuckles. We've got our ISR 5-lug hub conversion. It's super simple because on 240s / Cefiros, they're bolt-on. It's not press-in junk. So I went ahead and ground down the inside here. Oh yeah, beautiful. And just used a drum sanding disc to clean off the corrosion. One thing I've learned, probably in the past year, clean corrosion off stuff that's like interference fit, like these shock mounts, like just little stuff, because the corrosion builds up, then it makes it impossible to put it together. So anyway, we're gonna do this like this. We got new bolts. There we go. One hub knuckle assembly done. Complete. Easy enough. Another example of cleaning off corrosion. Just hitting the splines on my axles with a wire wheel. Make them slide in a little easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw the axles in now, so that way I can put the hub on. It won't be as difficult. All right, one in, one to go, one to go. Axle number 2 in. Time to install our beautiful new hubs. Final step of our subframe assembly. At least I think it is. All right, put a little bit of grease on the splines. Should go in nice and easy. Yeah, like butter. Bada boom. Ooh, sketchy. One side down, one to go. Alrighty, our subframe is complete. It's braced, it's painted, solid subframe bushings, all new arms, new ball joints, new hubs, dual caliper brackets. Very satisfying project, I must say. I do wish, I know you guys are gonna yell at me for not cleaning the diff and axles better. I did pressure wash them, but I'd have to paint them and then the paint chips off and they look worse than they do if you just leave them, so I just left them. Don't get me wrong, I do feel a little guilty about it with all these other new parts, but it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, so next up on the to-do list is to get it back in the car. It's ready to go. So on my theme of greasing and cleaning corrosion, clean the corrosion off these studs, gave them a little bit of PB penetrating grease, and should just help everything slide up better and no binding with the bolts or any of that nonsense. So, yep. Oh, well, I guess I can do this later. I need to pull the handbrake cables out, but putting the subframe in is not gonna get in the way. Let's do it. Ooh, that was a bit of a challenge, I'll say. It was a bit, yeah, fun stuff, as Ben says. Ben had to help. It was rough, man. The solid bushings is just obviously no flex. And I've installed subframes with solid bushings before. This one was different. We ended up having to actually take the table out, use a jack on each side and a jack in the middle and jack it, and then we got it further than before, but then it bound up, and then we had to draw it in with the nuts, which was scary, but we used low-powered impacts. Anyway, moral of the story is it's freaking in there, and it looks snazzy. Very nice to see. Freshly painted, all the arms, new hubs, all the new things. So I need to hook these shocks up. I am changing these out for some custom drift spec BCs that I'm waiting on. They're getting built now, but for now, so the suspension's not hanging down so far, we'll go ahead and pop these in. And then we'll be about done with the rear for the moment, or at least the subframe aspect of things. It's a relief. It's a relief. Waiting for parts, and yeah, we got it done. Feels good. Nice to see how easy all this suspension moves, because that means we got no binding issues. I do still need to toss the sway bar back on, but for now, we're gonna leave it off. Stock gooey brake line out. Brake lines are in. I will have to clock them a little bit whenever we get the calipers in and get those on and figure out if I want to go to the top caliper or the bottom caliper, which caliper of the two I want to be the handbrake, which I want to be on the normal brakes. But yeah, I mean, rear suspension, again, is mostly wrapped up. We'll tackle the handbrake lines and stuff at a later date. I've got to figure out exactly how I want to do it and really need to get the calipers in here first and figure out where I want to route them. But yeah, next project on the chopping block is going to be the front. So we're going to pull the subframe out, relocate the rack, extend our lower control arms, new sway bar, new tension rods, a lot of things. We got a lot of things to go in the front here. And I did talk to the machine shop today, and they're starting on the head, so hopefully they'll have it done in a couple days, and we can throw that back on here as well. Fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed they knock it out quick. It sounds like they're starting on it at least. That's a good sign. So plenty more on the to-do list, but as you can see, the sun is setting. It's getting dark. That is going to be a wrap for today. Again, we'll pick this back up tomorrow with the front suspension, get that knocked out, and then dive into the engine. So I hope to see you guys for all of that. But for now, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Goodbye.